Welcome to my channel today. I'm breaking down Becoming a Legendary Ace Employee. The chapter opens on a busy construction site. Hammers banging, scaffolding going up, workers hauling materials. And right there in the middle of it is Tae-seok, still in his safety vest, checking his phone. He sighs, another rejection email. This time it's from the Jinsung Group, the standard corporate copy-paste. We appreciate your application. Unfortunately, we wish you the best. You know the type. His co-worker Chae-sung walks over and catches him standing around, calls him rookie, and asks if he's slacking off again. But Tae-seok just grins and says he's already done with everything. Chae-sung doesn't believe it at first. The guy's only been there a year. But sure enough, the work area behind Tae-seok is spotless. Everything finished. Chae-sung is baffled. Tae-seok explains he's been doing jobs like this since right after high school. Manual labor is basically second nature to him, and that's when the team leader shows up. He doesn't just confirm that Tae-seok finished his own work. He tells Chae-sung that Tae-seok covered his workload too. You can see Chae-sung shrink a little. The team leader scolds him to stop making excuses and actually finish a task on his own for once. But then the chapter shifts tone. As Tae-seok climbs a ladder, he winces. Hard. He plays it off when Chae-sung asks, says he's fine. But we get a close-up of his hand gripping his lower back, and the narration tells us what he's been hiding. 6 months ago, he strained his back lifting a heavy construction panel. It's chronic now. The painkillers are barely holding things together. When the workday ends, the team leader invites everyone out for drinks, but Tae-seok declines. He says he needs to go to the hospital. He's out of medicine. The next scene hits differently. We're at Hanwol Medical Center, and the doctor, someone who clearly knows Tae-seok personally, is examining him. The diagnosis is rough. A nerve is pressing out between his 4th and 5th vertebrae. The doctor's face is dead serious. He tells Tae-seok he cannot do physical work anymore, but Tae-seok pushes back. He says construction pays well, and there aren't a lot of other options for someone like him. The doctor loses his patience. He tells Tae-seok to find a different job, and then drops a line that cuts deep. Do you want to end up like your dad? That's when the chapter gives us the backstory. Tae-seok's father was a construction worker too. He died on the job, fell at a site. The main contractor pointed fingers at the subcontractor. The company that employed his dad shut down and vanished. And Tae-seok's family was left with nothing. They received 25 million won from an NGO. That's it. That was the price put on his father's life. We see a flashback of young Tae-seok and his mother standing at the funeral altar. And the narration tells us that for two people who had nothing, that money was everything. The doctor, who turns out to be a family friend, Tae-seok calls Hanwol Ajusi, kicks him out of the office in frustration, tells the nurse not to even charge him. And then, quietly, he transfers 2 million won to Tae-seok's account. Tough love from someone who clearly cares. After that, Tae-seok heads to a hospital to visit his mother. She's bedridden, hooked up to an IV, wearing a patient gown. She smiles when she sees him, but asks who sent the money she received. Tae-seok dodges the question. She asks if work is hard. He says it's fine. She can tell he's exhausted but doesn't press. As he falls asleep in the chair beside her bed, she covers him with a blanket and whispers to herself, calling him her foolish, honest son, and promising she'll beat her illness so he doesn't have to carry everything alone. The next morning, back at the construction site quarters, Tae-seok has coffee with the manager, an older guy with white hair who asks about his condition. The manager wants him to stay because they're short on carpenters. But Tae-seok admits the physical work just isn't possible anymore. He also confirms the manager wasn't the one who sent the money. He reflects on that for a moment. Doing good work doesn't mean people will personally bankroll your life. That was the doctor, acting on his own. Then his phone buzzes. He looks down. It's a message from the HR team at Sung Group. Kim Tae-seok has passed the document screening for a general position. After 200 failed applications, he finally got through. The second round is scheduled for May 6th. His face lights up. He's holding the phone with shaking hands, completely stunned. Tae-seok is standing at the construction site, staring at this glowing blue notification floating in front of him. It reads, "Your wish came true." He's blinking at it, completely stunned. He tries waving his hands through it, swiping it away. Nothing works. The thing just hovers there. He starts panicking. He walks up to a coworker who's on a smoke break and, trying to stay calm, asks the guy if he can see any floating text around him. The coworker just stares at him like he's lost his mind, tells him to stop talking nonsense, and asks if he's drunk in the middle of the day. Tae-seok backs off, apologizing, but internally he's piecing it together. If the guy couldn't see it, he would have reacted to the giant glowing panel first. So this thing is invisible to everyone except him. He rushes to the bathroom to confirm. Checks the mirror. The text doesn't even show up in reflections. He can only see it with his direct line of sight. And at this point he's standing there going, am I dreaming? Am I losing it? But here's where it gets interesting. The system keeps dinging with new messages. It tells him he's unlocked access to a tutorial, specifically the Path of Elsung Group's regular employee. And then it asks, would you like to proceed? Tae-seok hesitates. The fine print is rough. If he abandons the quest at any point during a 1-year period, he loses all his memories from the start of it. Everything just gets wiped. He reads that and immediately goes, I'll lose my memory? But the reward for completing it, he gets the actual written assessment questions and personality evaluation answers for Elsung Group's hiring process. And then something clicks in him. This has been his dream. Working at a company like that. He wrestles with it for a moment. This whole thing feels like something out of a video game. But he makes the call. He hits yes immediately. The system assigns him the occupation Job Seeker and grants him a skill called Job Seeker's Insight, ranked E. According to the tooltip, this skill lets him identify which questions from commercially available workbooks will actually appear on Elsung's test. But there's a catch. It drains his stamina the longer he uses it, and it only activates inside Elsung Group-owned buildings. He finds that out the hard way. He runs to a bookstore, buys every assessment workbook on the shelf, 12 volumes, then tries to activate the skill right there. Nothing happens. The system pops up a message telling him the skill is location locked. So he does the smart thing. He takes all 12 books, still wrapped in plastic, back to the construction site, which happens to be an Elsung Group property. He activates Job Seeker's Insight, starts flipping through the workbooks, and 2 of them light up. Specific questions glow green, marking them as the ones that'll show up on the real test. He returns the other 10 books and pulls an all-nighter memorizing those highlighted questions. On exam day, the system feeds him another tip: wear a business suit. The official invitation said the dress code was casual, since it's just a personality assessment. But Tae-seok trusts the system and shows up in a full suit and tie. When he walks in, the system dings. You passed the dress code check. Turns out Elsung was secretly evaluating whether candidates would dress professionally anyway. That's the kind of company this is. They test you when you don't even realize you're being tested. He sits down in the exam hall. 200 questions, 30 minutes. While other candidates are sweating and sneaking glances at each other's papers, Tae-seok is tearing through it because he's already memorized every question that matters. Then something wild happens. One of the other candidates, Yoon Mira, raises her hand and starts complaining to the proctors about not getting transportation reimbursement. The system immediately pops a notification on Tae-seok's screen. Job seeker Yoon Mira has failed the exam. Just like that. She didn't even know she was being judged. With 1 minute left, Tae-seok makes a decision. He was debating whether to miss a few questions on purpose, so a perfect score wouldn't look suspicious. But with only 30 minutes for 200 questions, nobody would assume cheating. They'd just think he prepared well. So he commits. Every answer, start to finish, all correct. The system lays it out clean. A general quest has appeared, and Tae-seok needs to have a one-on-one conversation with the on-site manager before the stress interview kicks off. The catch? The reward for accepting is listed as unknown, but the punishment for refusing? A full site transfer, from Cheonan all the way down to Jinju. That's brutal, and Tae-seok does not want to go see this guy. His coworker is stunned when Tae-seok says he'll actually go this time. The guy's been dodging the manager for who knows how long. But Tae-seok puts it simply. The manager is the one signing his paychecks. He can't run forever, so he walks into the manager's office. The door closes, and for a long, uncomfortable moment, nothing. Just 2 men staring each other down in total silence. Then the manager breaks it. He tells Tae-seok he's being reassigned. Starting tomorrow, He's working as a carpenter under team manager Ko. No discussion. Taesok pushes back. He says he can't just switch roles overnight, and that's when the manager explodes. He's furious. He calls Taesok out by his full name, Kim Taesok, and demands to know why someone with real carpentry skills is wasting his talent doing paint jobs. Painters are a dime a dozen, he says, but a carpenter, finding one right now is nearly impossible. Taesok's jaw is tight. He's thinking about walking out. And right then, the system chimes in again. A linked quest. Listen to the manager until the end, show a humane side, and have a calm conversation. So Taesok forces himself to breathe. He tells the manager to calm down and explain the actual situation. And for the first time, the old man stops yelling. He admits there's no carpenter working the second floor right now. If that work doesn't get done, they'll blow past the construction deadline, and the losses would pile up to millions of won per day. Taesok knows this deal is a raw one for him, but the system is watching, and the penalty for failing is too steep. So he takes a step back and agrees. 1 week of carpentry work. That's all he's offering. The manager's whole demeanor flips. He's grinning, patting Taesok on the back, calling him a punk in that affectionate way older Korean men do when they're relieved. He even admits, and this is key, that he seriously considered transferring Taesok to the Jinju site out of spite. Exactly what the system predicted. The week flies by. Taesok grinds through the carpentry work, and we see him up on a ladder at the construction site when someone calls him down. A man named Choi Ki-dong, a director from Elsung Group, is visiting the site, and he personally thanks Taesok for saving the project. They shake hands. Director Choi says Taesok's work took a huge weight off his shoulders. Taesok plays it cool on the outside, but his body is wrecked. His back is killing him. He heads to a clinic afterwards, and the doctor tears into him. Turns out Taesok has a herniated disc, and he's been making it worse all week. But Taesok pushes through. The interview is right around the corner. Then we cut to the big day. Taesok is in a suit, sitting in a corporate interview room alongside 2 other candidates, Kwang Min-woo and Kong Hee-jin. And sitting behind the panel of interviewers, Director Choi Ki-dong, the same man from the construction site. Taesok recognizes him immediately. The interview begins, but Choi changes the order. Instead of going alphabetically or calling Taesok first, he starts with Min-woo. And the interviewers don't hold back. They ask Min-woo to stand up, point out that he's wearing white socks with black dress pants, and start grilling him about it. When Min-woo can barely answer, they push harder, asking if he can't control his own emotions. Taesok watches carefully. He sees Min-woo crumble. Then Hee-jin goes next. They tear into her for having 0 work experience, no part-time jobs, no volunteering. She starts crying under the pressure. The interviewers just keep going, and Taesok puts it together. This is a stress interview, exactly like the system warned him about. The whole point is to break the applicants down and see who keeps their composure. And Director Choi deliberately pushed Taesok's turn to the end, so he could observe the other 2 and mentally prepare himself. Then the interviewer calls his name. Kim Taesok. He stands up. His fists are tight. His eyes are locked forward. And in his mind, one thought. He didn't grind through a week of back-breaking carpentry, sit through a screaming match with his boss, and push through a herniated disc, just to fall apart now. The interviewer looks at him with this slightly smug expression. So, which college did you graduate from? And Taesok, without flinching, tells them straight. He earned his degree through the academic credit bank system. Basically an alternative education path. No traditional university. No campus life, nothing. The interviewer raises an eyebrow. So you never actually attended college? And Taesok just confirms it. That's correct. You can feel the tension in the room. The interviewers glance at each other, whispering. One of them leans forward and says, "Do you have nothing else to say about that?" Now here's where most people would start scrambling, making excuses, trying to spin it. But Taesok, he makes a choice. He decides his only weapon here is the raw, unfiltered truth about his life. He tells them, I had to earn money. Simple as that. Instead of going to school, he worked construction, hauling steel, wearing a hard hat, putting in grueling physical hours day after day. And then, after those shifts, he spent his evenings studying on his own. He earned computer certifications, technical qualifications. He built every single credential he has with his own 2 hands, on his own time, while doing back-breaking labor during the day. He looks the panel dead in the eye and says, I have never neglected my life. And you can see it land. The lead interviewer goes quiet for a second, just processing. Then comes the real curveball question. The interviewer asks, how far are you willing to go for Elsung Group? Taesuk already had his answer prepared. He says he'd take on any task, as long as it doesn't break the law or cross ethical lines. The interviewer pushes back on that. Why put conditions on it? And this is where Taesuk is brilliant. He flips it around. He says, because any company that would order something illegal would be destroying its own reputation. He tells them he respects Elsung Group's commitment to integrity, and if the company ever strayed from that path, he'd be the one to speak up and steer them back on course. The interviewers are visibly impressed. Even the stress questions can't rattle him. They ask if he has a girlfriend, and he just grins and says no. There aren't exactly a lot of women at construction sites. But hey, if you know anyone decent, introduce me, I'll make time. The whole panel cracks up laughing. This guy is the real deal. The interview wraps, and we cut back to reality. Taesuk on the construction site, hard hat back on. His co-worker greets him, catches him up on the drama he missed, and announces the team is going out for Korean beef that night. At dinner, the guys are drinking and venting. One of them brings up a relative who's been an engineer for over 20 years and still never broke 50 million won a year. Another one slams the table. Certifications are useless. Studying is a waste of time. And Taesuk just sits there, quiet, listening. Because deep down he knows they're not entirely wrong. The treatment of technical workers really is harsh. But he's also the guy who refused to stop studying, refused to stop reaching, even when everyone around him said it was pointless. Then the scene jumps forward. 1 week later, Taesuk is standing in the Elsung Group building, suit on, phone buzzing. It's his team leader from the construction site yelling at him to come into work. Taesuk told him the day before he was taking a break, but the guy doesn't care. He wants Taesuk on site. Taesuk apologizes, promises to be there tomorrow, and hangs up mid-sentence. Because right now, he's got something bigger going on. He passed the first interview. The topic on the table is about South Korea's rising educational costs. Specifically, what's driving them up and what can be done about it. Park In-soo, candidate number 3, goes first. He raises his hand confidently and launches into this whole thing about Korea's passion for learning being essential to the nation's economic growth. Sounds polished, right? But Taesuk is sitting there reading between the lines, and he immediately clocks the problem. In-soo completely dodged the actual question. He talked about why education matters instead of addressing why it costs so much. Next up is Choi Yoon-hee, candidate number 7. She's sharper. She brings up a real number. Her parents spent around 300 million won on her education through college, and she connects that burden to the country's falling birth rate. Her solution: expand welfare benefits to encourage families to have more children. Another candidate jumps in to agree, talking about nuclear families and per-child spending going up. It's a reasonable take, but Taesuk is still thinking. This is a corporate interview, not a policy debate. Why would a private company care about birth rate solutions? So Taesuk raises his hand and introduces himself. And then he does something none of the other candidates did. He stands up and walks to the presentation screen. He drops real data. Korea has the highest private education spending in the world, but only ranks around 75% on the OECD's Education Quality Index. He argues the system is built around uniformity, every student pushed through the same pipeline regardless of their strengths, rather than developing individual talent. Then he pivots to Germany. He breaks down their 3-track system: gymnasium for academics, Realschule for a balanced approach, Hauptschule for practical and vocational skills, and explains how it aligns what the job market actually needs with what the education system produces. In Germany, there isn't a massive income gap between professions. In Korea, engineers and technical workers are stigmatized. The work is seen as beneath people, so junior engineers are leaving the country for jobs abroad. He pulls out documents and charts he'd prepared. He's pointing at the screen, backing every claim with numbers. The other candidates are sitting there with their mouths open. His conclusion: if the country restructured its education system along those lines, costs would drop and the economy would benefit across the board. And that's when candidate number 10 steps in. His name is Yoon Seok-in, and he's not having it. He leans forward and straight up accuses Tae-seok of slandering the nation's education system. His tone is sharp. He argues it's wrong to push a foreign country's model without understanding Korea's unique circumstances. Everyone in this room graduated from elite universities, he says. The system clearly produces outstanding talent, so what exactly is Korea lacking compared to Germany? Tae-seok feels the pressure. Internally, he's rattled. He didn't expect anyone to come at him that aggressively. But he keeps his composure. He apologizes calmly, clarifies it was just his personal analysis, and holds his ground without escalating. And then the moderator does something no one saw coming. He tells Yoon Seokin he can leave. Right now, he doesn't fit Il-sung's standards. The room goes quiet. Seokin is stunned. He barely gets out a confused response before the moderator explains, Il-sung needs people who cooperate and build others up, not people who position themselves above everyone else to tear them down. And everything about Seokin's approach, his tone, his framing, his superiority, screamed the opposite. With Seokin gone, the discussion moves to a second topic: reforming the national pension system. The other candidates start debating, and 25 minutes tick by with no resolution. People are going back and forth, nobody's budging, and the moderator is visibly losing patience. Tae-seok recognizes the moment. He jumps in and takes charge. He summarizes the two main positions cleanly. One candidate wanted to merge state and occupational pensions, while another suggested supplementing the state pension with private financial products. Then he asks to hear from one more person, before putting it to a majority vote. Behind his clipboard, the moderator is quietly impressed. He's been watching for exactly this, someone willing to step up as a mediator. He looks down at Tae-seok's evaluation sheet and circles his name. This guy passes. After the interview wraps up, Tae-seok steps into the hallway and runs right into Yoon Seokin, who's been waiting. Seokin tells him the result was unfair, that he doesn't accept it. But as Tae-seok looks at him, something triggers. His vision shifts, and suddenly Seokin is glowing green. He glances around. Other candidates appear in red, some in orange. The colors are different for every person. His special ability, the eye of a job seeker, has activated on its own. And he realizes two things. Blinking 3 times in a row turns it on, and the color coding has nothing to do with age. He just doesn't know what it means yet. Tae-seok heads out to clean up, and the team leader spots him looking like a half-finished art project. The team leader tells him his house is too far away. Just go use the spa on the first floor. Apparently, the place just opened today, and they're letting construction workers test it out. So, Tae-seok drags himself down to this brand new spa, showers off the paint, and settles into the hot bath. That's when he notices an older man already soaking nearby. The old guy strikes up conversation, asks Tae-seok what he does for a living. Tae-seok tells him he works construction on this very building. The old man chuckles, says he works here too, though he's not the owner. They chat. Easy, friendly stuff. Tae-seok thinks the old guy has solid work ethics. He mentions he uses the baths himself, so he can understand what the customers would complain about. Then the old man says something odd. He has a jinx before Tae-seok can ask more. The old man suddenly plunges underwater with a big splash. Tae-seok's eyes go wide. He panics, calls out to him. Nothing. He rushes over, ready to pull this man out of the water, and the old guy pops back up laughing. Asks if Tae-seok really thought he'd died. Tae-seok exhales, tells him he nearly gave him a heart attack. The old man explains his jinx. After his company constructs a building, he believes something bad will happen within a year, unless he bathes inside that building first. We get a quick flash of a high-rise engulfed in flames, and suddenly that quirky superstition feels a lot heavier. They part ways warmly. The old man wishes Tae-seok well. Tae-seok walks out of the spa, and right as he leaves, a man in an expensive suit walks in, opens the door, and calls out one word. Chairman, that friendly old man in the bath? Chairman Kim Chang-mo, the head of the entire Il-sung Corporation. The man who owns the building, Tae-seok has been painting walls in all week, and Tae-seok has absolutely no idea. Cut to Tae-seok at home that evening, cramming hard, memorizing current events, economics, everything about Il-sung's history. His system pops up with a notification that basically says, relax, just show up and you'll pass. Tae-seok doesn't buy it. He tells the system he'll prepare on his own because you can't rely on luck at an executive interview. Next day, Tae-suk walks in, suit and tie, introduces himself. Kim Tae-suk, happy to be here. 3 executives sit across from him. He activates his ability, Job Seeker's Insight, and notices the interviewers are glowing different colors. Purple, navy blue, all of them in their 50s. Definitely upper management. One of them flips through his file and pauses. Credit banking system degree. No traditional college. The guy turns to the director. This candidate never attended university, but then they pull up his evaluation scores. Personal aptitude, group interview, discussion round. Tae-suk scored the highest in every single category. Higher than applicants from Sky universities. The Korean equivalent of Ivy League schools. The executives exchange looks. Then someone leans in and whispers to the director. His code name is SSS. Codename SSS. Reserved for relatives and descendants of the chairman's family. Or anyone with direct connections to them. The entire mood shifts. They stop grilling him. They ask him what position he'd prefer. Tae-suk says clerical, but he's flexible. They smile politely and tell him he's free to go. Interview over. Just like that. After Tae-suk leaves, the executives huddle up. They're convinced this kid is the chairman's secret relative. The credit banking degree? Obviously a disguise, so other employees don't catch on. The chairman has always insisted his family members start from the bottom. It all adds up to them. Meanwhile, Tae-suk is walking out scratching his head, completely clueless about why that interview felt so weirdly easy. The chapter opens on a scene that immediately sets the tone. We're inside this lavish office, chandeliers, wood paneling, the works, and a man behind a desk is tearing into someone standing in front of him. The person who failed the interview? They had the questions leaked to them ahead of time, and they still couldn't pull it off. The man at the desk, clearly the father, calls it a disgrace to the family. He tells them to cover it up, make an excuse, say they were sick, pretend the interview never happened. The kid standing there, fists clenched, jaw tight, just says he understands. Now cut to Tae-suk. Completely different energy. He's at a construction site, hard hat and safety vest, checking his phone between shifts. And there it is, a message from Elsung Group's welcome team confirming he passed the executive interview and completed the final round. He's in. He made it, but here's the thing. Tae-suk isn't smiling, because the next message tells him he needs to submit a physical examination. And Tae-suk has been doing construction labor. His lower back is wrecked. One of the reasons he even wanted a corporate job was to get away from the physical toll. Now, that same body is the one thing standing between him and his dream. So he goes to visit someone. A doctor he calls Ayusi, Dr. Kim Han-wol. This guy clearly knows Tae-suk well. He immediately asks if his back is acting up again. But Tae-suk says no, that's not why he's here. He tells the doctor about the job, and Han-wol's face lights up. He's genuinely happy for the kid. Then he notices something's off. Tae-suk looks like he's carrying the weight of the world despite getting the best news of his life. The doctor puts it together. The only step left after the interview is the physical exam. That's the favor Tae-suk can't bring himself to ask for. And it's a big one. Faking medical records could cost Han-wol his entire license. But Han-wol does it anyway. He types up a clean report, burns it onto a CD, and has the nurse hand it over along with a painkiller prescription. On his way out, the doctor pokes his head through the door and tells Tae-suk to buy him dinner once he gets his first paycheck. Tae-suk thanks him with everything he's got. You can tell. This man is more than just a family friend to him. Days later, Tae-suk gets the final confirmation on his phone. He's officially been accepted into Elsung Group's general position recruitment. It's real. It's done. And that's when the system kicks in. A massive holographic panel explodes into his tiny room. A new employee-exclusive store has unlocked. He's got 5 reward points to spend, and the shop is stocked with wild items. Sobering pills that instantly neutralize alcohol, lenses that let you see through walls for a minute, candy that kills sleepiness for 6 hours, even a perfume that boosts your charm. Tae-suk is standing there, mouth open, asking if this is a game or actual magic. The system does not appreciate the doubt. It threatens to wipe his memories. He immediately apologizes. Smart move, then comes the emotional punch. The system drops a main quest. Last goodbyes to Mom. He needs to visit his mother in the hospital and tell her the good news. Tae-suk heads straight there. His mom is lying in a hospital bed, head covered, clearly going through serious treatment. But the second she sees her son, she smiles. He tells her he got into Elsung Group, and she beams with pride. Her son studied hard and made it into a big company. Of course she's happy. They share a quiet, warm moment. She offers him an apple his aunt brought earlier. The quest completes. 6 points earned. Subquest unlocked. It starts with Tae-sok at the hospital, visiting his mother. And while he's there, something clicks in his head. He's thinking back on his childhood. How his dad and a man named Kim Han-wol were inseparable since they were kids. Han-wol was the type of guy who'd come by their house every single day, just to nag Tae-sok's father about not taking care of himself. A real ride-or-die friendship. But then Tae-sok pauses. Wait, Han-wol never got married, did he? And right on cue, the system chimes in. A new subquest appears. Mom's First Love. The objective is simple. Call Kim Han-wol and invite him to the hospital ward. 5 points on completion. Tae-sok just stares at the notification. He's rattled. He's not having it. He fires back at the system. Why are you giving me this kind of quest? This has nothing to do with becoming a better employee. This is his mother's love life. That's private. That's family. The system responds coldly. I cannot lie. Tae-sok presses harder. Who even are you? Tell me, I cannot reveal that, so the system won't budge. It won't explain itself, won't tell him its identity, but insists that everything, every single quest, is for Tae-sok's benefit. He's left standing in the hospital corridor, stewing, with no answers, and a quest he doesn't want to complete. He walks back into his mother's room. She's lying there in the hospital bed, frail but alert, and she asks why he took so long. Did he get the fruit knife? He fumbles an excuse about a phone call. She tells him it's fine. He can leave if something's urgent. But Tae-sok sits down and asks her something instead. Casually, carefully, does she remember Mr. Kim Han-wol? And the way her face changes? Instant. Her eyes go wide. She repeats the name back to him almost in a whisper. Tae-sok catches it immediately. There's something in how she said that name. Something different from before. He's thinking back now. Back to when his father died. There's a connection here he never noticed as a kid. He excuses himself again, tells her he needs to make a call, and steps out. He pulls out his phone and dials Kim Han-wol's number. Han-wol picks up right away. Warm, familiar. He greets Tae-sok by name, says he was actually about to call him, wants to know how the new job went. But Tae-sok doesn't do small talk. He goes straight for it. Mister, do you still have feelings for my mother? Dead silence on the other end. Then Han-wol's voice cracks. What are you talking about? Did something happen to Hye-jung? What did she say? You're at the hospital, aren't you? The panic in his voice tells Tae-sok everything he needs to know. He gives Han-wol the room number, Korea General Hospital, room 403, and tells him to come. Now. Then he hangs up while Han-wol is still shouting his name through the phone. The system pings. You made the right choice. Tae-sok scoffs. He demands to know who the system really is one more time. Silence. No answer. Just that infuriating blue notification hanging in the air. But here's the thing. Not even 15 minutes pass before Tae-sok hears footsteps pounding down the hospital hallway. He turns around, and there's Kim Han-wol, sprinting toward him in a full white doctor's coat. The man didn't even change out of his work clothes. He bolted from his clinic the second that call ended. Han-wol rushes past Tae-sok and straight into his mother's room. And Tae-sok just watches. The subquest notification dings. Completed. 5 points earned. Total 16. The store is now unlocked. But Tae-sok barely registers the reward. He's standing there, turning something over in his mind. He reflects on the system's behavior. It only ever gives him one-sided help. Its messages sometimes feel emotional, almost threatening. But every single time, without fail, the outcome lands in his favor. And then the thought hits him. His eyes flash. That signature blue glow the system triggers. Dad? Is that you? He can't shake it. The way the system watches over him. The way it pushes him toward things that feel fatherly. Take this job. Call this person. Take care of your mother. There's no way. Right, but what if it is? The system stays quiet. And that silence says more than any answer could. So, the chapter opens at the construction site during golden hour, cranes in the background, dust in the air. And Tae-sok drops the bomb. He apologizes, bows his head, and says he won't be showing up starting tomorrow. And the team leader? He erupts. He grabs Taesuk by the collar, figuratively. At least, yelling about how he doesn't even have a proper educational background. How it took forever to get him trained up. And now that he's finally become useful, this is what he does? He's furious. And honestly, you can tell the anger is coming from a real place. This guy genuinely cared about Taesuk. Taesuk just stands there, head low, repeating that he's sorry. Really sorry. The whole crew goes quiet. Nobody knows what to say. Then one of the co-workers breaks the tension. He turns to the team leader and goes, "Hey, since Taesuk's leaving, shouldn't we at least do a farewell dinner?" And the team leader snaps at him too. How can you think about dinner when the guy's leaving on terms like these? But then the older co-worker, Mr. Kim, steps in, calm and collected, says he already told his wife he'd be home late, suggests they get some hangover soup. And you can see the team leader's expression soften just a little. He's still annoyed, but he caves. Cut to the restaurant, twin pork backbone soup. The four of them sitting around a hot pot, steam rising, bottles on the table. And this is where the mood shifts from anger to something much heavier. The team leader gets real with Taesuk. He tells him straight up, don't underestimate office work. The people at Elsung Group, they're from top universities. The kind of schools Taesuk was told to give up on. And when they find out he got his degree through the academic credit bank system, which, for those who don't know, is basically an alternative credentialing path in Korea, they are not going to let that slide. Taesuk nods. He says he's aware. He knows it's going to be rough, but then he looks up with those quiet, determined eyes and says, still, he'll have to face them head on. And man, the team leader's face in that moment? You can see it all. The frustration, the worry, the grudging respect. He tells Taesuk that if things don't work out, he can always come back. They'll keep his position open, or make a new one if they have to. That hits different. This rough, gruff construction foreman is basically saying, I've got your back, no matter what. Then Mr. Kim, the older co-worker, reaches into his pocket and slides an envelope across the table. Taesuk is confused. Mr. Kim smiles and tells him it's nothing much. Just enough to buy himself a pair of Oxford shoes. Because you can't walk into a corporate office in work boots, right? Taesuk immediately tries to refuse, waves his hands, says there's no need. But the other coworker snatches the envelope, laughing, saying he wants new shoes too. The team leader barks at him to give it back. And then everyone's insisting, take it, Taesuk, or I'm going to get angry. He finally accepts, smiles, a real smile. And in his inner monologue, he reflects, it was a simple dinner, nothing fancy. But he could feel the warmth behind every word. Then the screen fades to black. And we get that transition text. He said his goodbyes, wished them well. And the day for his entrance to Elsung Group arrived. Now here's where the energy completely changes. We go from that warm, golden construction site to this massive, gleaming corporate skyscraper. Glass panels reflecting the sky, buses lined up out front. It's a whole different universe. Taesuk walks up in a suit, pulling a suitcase, and introduces himself to the employee running check-in. The guy looks at his clipboard, sees Taesuk's name, and then pauses. He asks, were you born in 92? Taesuk says no. 94? Yes, and you can feel the confusion on the employee's face. Taesuk looks older than the other fresh recruits. He gets sent to the third bus, which seems to be sorted by birth year. He boards, and it's full of sharp-looking young people in crisp suits. The new class of Elsung Group employees. And Taesuk? He's the odd one out. The chapter opens with a convoy of red buses rolling down the highway towards Sokcho. Inside, Taesuk is sitting by the window, hands clasped, just taking it all in. Everything around him feels unfamiliar. The scenery, the other recruits, the weight of what's coming. But underneath that nervousness, there's a spark of hope. A sense that this is the beginning of something real. The buses pull up to the Elsung Group Training Center, and it's exactly what you'd expect from a top 5 Korean conglomerate. Massive, institutional, no nonsense. A supervisor in a brown suit steps off and starts barking instructions right away. Everyone off. Personal items distributed. Grab a gym uniform that fits, and a name tag. Move. Taesuk gets his assignment. 3rd floor. Room B3. He takes his suitcase and starts navigating the building. And you can see his brain working. The floors are labeled A, B, and C, starting from the 2nd floor. Men and women share the same floors, but are split by room numbers. Rooms 1 through 25 are for the guys, 26 through 50 for the women. Different floors seem to correspond to different teams. He's already mapping everything out, reading the environment. He finds B13, opens the door, and yeah, it's tight. Bunk beds, barely enough room to turn around. He holds up the gym uniform they gave him, and it's looking a little rough around the edges. But hey, it's free. He starts changing when the door opens, and in walks his roommate, a guy with glasses and a warm smile. This is Kang Min-young, 29 years old, and he's got that older brother energy right from the start. He laughs about how cramped the room is, and introduces himself. Tae-suk tells him he's 25. Min-young does a double take. 25 and already hired at Il-sung? He figures Tae-suk must have graduated college in 3 years. Tae-suk plays it down, says his military service gave him a bunch of academic credits, so he finished ahead of schedule. There's a small but telling moment here. Tae-suk offers Min-young the top bunk without being asked, and Min-young is genuinely grateful since he's not a fan of climbing up there. It's a tiny gesture, but Min-young picks up on it immediately. He tells Tae-suk he's really considerate. You can see the foundation of a friendship forming right there. Min-young jokes that the whole setup reminds him of his military days, and Tae-suk just smiles. These two are going to get along fine. They barely have time to settle in before a loudspeaker announcement cuts through the building. All trainees, gather in the vacant lot in front of the main building. You have 10 minutes. Min-young and Tae-suk exchange a look and head out together. The scene shifts to the auditorium, and the scale of this thing hits you all at once. Around 260 people, all wearing the same gray training uniforms, standing in formation. The first roll call is pretty standard. Attendance check, group assignments, nothing too intense. But then they move into the formal entrance ceremony, and things get serious. An MC takes the podium and introduces the director of the training center, Yoon Sung-mok. And this guy has credentials. He was the executive director of Il-sung Electronics core business unit until just last year. This isn't some mid-level trainer. This is someone who sat in the room where the biggest decisions got made. Yoon Sung-mok walks up, bows, and greets the crowd. When the trainee's response is too quiet, he pushes back. He can barely hear them. So 260 people shout their greeting back at full volume. Military vibes, for real. Then Sung-mok launches into the history of Il-sung Group. He talks about the 1960s, when the company was nothing. They went to Japan just to learn how technology worked. They imported knowledge piece by piece and built from scratch. He paints a picture of a company that earned its place among Korea's top 5 through sheer grit, not privilege. The auditorium gets quiet. These new recruits are standing in a building that represents decades of sacrifice by the people who came before them. And the weight of that message is clear. Sung-mok isn't just giving a history lesson. He's setting the standard. He's telling every single person in that room, the people who built this company gave everything. Now it's your turn to prove you belong here. The chapter opens quiet. Our MC is sitting alone in his dorm room, and there's this heavy stillness to the whole scene. His roommate got promoted to team leader, so now he's got the room to himself. On paper, that sounds nice. In reality, it's kind of isolating. It's his first night, and there's nobody to even make small talk with. Then we cut to the official announcement. The supervisor, this sharp-looking guy in a brown suit with a red tie, stands in front of all the trainees and lays down the rules. Kang Min-young is Team B's leader. The role lasts a week, and after that, the team gets to vote him in or out. Oh, and if it's too much, he can step down voluntarily. Real encouraging stuff. And then the supervisor drops one more thing. From now on, they don't say yes. Sir! The company response is Il-sung. Everyone shouts it back, and just like that, the new era begins. MC heads out of his room trying to figure out what to do with himself. He passes by some other trainees chatting and decides to take a shower. But here's the thing about this training facility. There's nothing private. No bathroom in the rooms. No kitchen. Everything is communal. Public laundry room, public showers, public restrooms, and CCTV cameras lining every hallway. Now most of the new hires are clearly uncomfortable with this setup. But our MC, he walks into the shower area, looks around, and barely reacts. And then we get this flashback, or really more of a memory, of his old life working construction. Sleeping sprawled out on sandwich panels at the job site. Eating black bean noodles surrounded by dust and noise. Rarely getting the chance to shower at all. So yeah, Compared to all that, a communal bathroom with actual hot water feels like a luxury to him. He notices there are way fewer people using the showers than he expected, and figures most of the trainees just aren't used to living like this, sharing space with a crowd of strangers. But he also clocks something important. The supervisors are watching. They're paying attention to how everyone handles these conditions, noting who adapts and who doesn't. Back in the room, MC sits down at his desk and starts going through the training manual. He's studying, getting ahead, doing his thing. The clock reads 9:30 p.m., then the door opens. It's Kang Min-young, this guy with glasses who's clearly trying his best. He's carrying a yellow folder full of survey forms. He asks MC if he's done with his studying, hands him a survey, and explains he's passing them out to all the team members. MC takes it, no problem. He fills it out, and then, here's the key moment, he offers to help. Asks Kang directly if he needs a hand with anything. Kang waves him off with a smile, says there's no need, tells MC to go ahead and sleep. He's got this handled. He chose to take the role, so he'll deal with everything himself. MC watches Kang leave and immediately clocks the problem. This guy is slow at working. And not just a little slow, noticeably slow. MC gets a bad feeling about how this is going to play out, and he's right. The next thing we see, a supervisor is storming down the hallway. He bursts in yelling Kang Min-young's name, visibly angry. The deadline for collecting all the surveys was 10 p.m., and Kang still hasn't finished. The supervisor demands to know what he's been doing this whole time. Kang, sweating now, explains that he couldn't collect everyone's forms because some of the trainees had already gone to sleep. He says he'll get the rest in the morning. The supervisor just stares at him, tells him it's literally his first day as team leader, and asks if this is really the best he can do. Kang can only bow his head and promise to have everything done by 7 a.m. The supervisor relents, barely, and tells him to go to sleep. As he turns to leave, he mutters under his breath that Kang looks way too intimidated. The door closes. Kang stands there, deflated, and MC is sitting on the top bunk, watching all of it in silence. There's this really telling moment right after the supervisor leaves. MC looks at Kang, and the narration tells us exactly what's going through his head. He wanted to ask, "Can you really handle all of this on your own?" But he held back. He couldn't bring himself to say it. Maybe because it would have felt like rubbing salt in the wound. Or maybe because Kang had specifically told him not to worry about it. Either way, MC just watches as Kang shuffles around the room, the weight of the situation sitting heavy on both of them. It's clear this team leader role is already bigger than Kang bargained for, and it's only day one. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos.